What's going on, guys? It's Sway, and today I'm going to be giving you my review of the Canon EOS R5. Now, first off, I'm going to preface this video by saying that this camera was my main workhorse for a little over 3 months, and then for 2 months after that, I was using it back and forth between the R6 and the GH5. It is only after using this camera over a 5-month period that I now feel comfortable enough to give you a review on this camera and to also tell you who I think this camera is for. Let's get into it. So first off, I'm a hybrid shooter, so this review will be coming from that perspective. First thing I need out of a camera is the ability to shoot 4K in either 24 frames or 60 frames per second. I don't really care about 120 frames or anything higher than that. I honestly rarely even use 60 frames per second, but I still like to have that in my pocket, in my arsenal, to be able to whip out whenever I need it. I also need the camera to be able to shoot stills in a high enough resolution for either websites or for Instagram. And then I also need to be able to switch between video and photo on the fly. I'll get into that later. And then the last thing, which is actually a very big need for me, is I need the camera to have a very good stabilization system, just because 99% of the time when I'm shooting video, I'm shooting handheld. So with handheld comes, that means there's going to be some shakes and some jitters from like walking, all those little micro things. I need the camera to be able to numb that out for me beautifully. Now that we got all of that out the way, I'm going to start off with some of the things that bug the fuck out of me about this camera, and then I'm going to get into the things that I absolutely love about this thing. Now, the first con, the elephant in the room, I'm just going to get it out the way with. Half of YouTubers run a train on it for it, and that is because, well, this thing overheats sometimes. Now, it is an issue. Some people oversold it, some people undersold it. It is an issue, but there are ways to work around it. Now, when I'm shooting, especially after shooting with this for a while, it becomes reflex now. In between takes, just turn the camera off. You don't need to leave it running. I mean, would it be nice to be able to leave it running and then just like at any given moment start recording up again? Yes, but you know what you're working with. So if you don't want it to overheat and you don't want to look unprofessional while you're in the middle of a shoot, you're shooting, immediately reflex becomes turn it off. Like, this is on, I already know I'm turning it off. Hand is reflexively going to that switch, don't even worry about it. Another thing I found that helps a lot is leaving the screen open. This one just kind of makes sense logically if you think about it. It's displacing heat. A lot of the heat is coming from right here. If you leave the screen closed up on it, you're kind of keeping it all in there. Leaving the screen open does give you a little bit more time. At least I feel like it does. And it just makes sense physically. What do you got to lose in trying it? And then also, why would you even leave the screen closed while you're using it? Because then you gotta like contort your head in a really weird way to try to film. Just leave the screen open. You got a flippy screen. Use the damn thing. Now, the third workaround, which I've left for last just because it requires you to buy more things, is purchasing an external recorder like the Ninja 5, or just any one of those other external recorders. So the reason that this works is when you're shooting or when you're recording externally with the Ninja, you can record with this past the point where the camera itself has the countdown timer and where it says you have 0 minutes, 0 seconds left. You can still record externally through the Ninja. Almost. So I ran into a scenario where it was pretty much a big shoot day for me. So I had about 2 or 3 clients lined back to back to back in the same gym. So we were shooting nonstop. One person leaves, the next one is up, just back to back to back. So after about shooting for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, I look down at the Ninja and then I see in big red letters, camera shutting down because of an overheat. Which sucks, but you just gotta talk your way into that one. So pretty much once I saw that, I turned the camera off. I started going back and forth with the girl. I'm like, okay, here's the next shot I want you to do, just because I feel like it's going to translate this, this, and this, 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 and that. Pretty much just bullshitted my way into the camera cooling down. Then after about a minute, I was able to, literally after 1 minute, I was able to turn the camera back on and then just finish up the rest of my shooting day, and I just made sure to turn it off in between takes. So yeah, that previous first step I said, turning the camera off in between takes, that still applies if you're using an external recorder like a Ninja or anything else similar to that. Now, the way that the custom white balance is set up on this camera is kind of stupid to me, and here's why. So on the GH5, or pretty much every camera I've ever owned, I always set it so card 1 is going to be the one to record video, and card 2 is going to be the one to record photo, which is exactly how I had the R6 set up. It created a problem though. When you need to have a reference picture for the custom white balance, you have to take a picture, right? So for me, that's going to be going onto card 2. I record video on card 1. So now when you go into video mode, right, you switch over to custom dial to video mode. Once you switch over to video mode, you can't look at any of those pictures when you hit the little play button or when you try to select something for a custom white balance. Thus, you can't really change the custom white balance to any reference picture if you set your cards the way I do, which means now I have to have it set up where both photo and video write to card 1. That's not really the biggest deal, but it's just like a weird workaround thing that kind of like just didn't really fuck up my workflow, but it just kind of changed it up a little bit. But If you come from a GH5, or if you kind of do the same setup like I do, which I think other people might, where you write video to one card, photo to another card, that's something to look out for. And then if you pick up the R6, probably do exactly what I said. Just set it up to write video and photo to card 1 or whichever card it is that you prefer. All right, this one bugs me because if you haven't figured out, I really love the GH5. This one bugs me as a previous GH5 user because, like, I don't know why they decided to put a micro HDMI port on this. The camera's over $2,000 fucking dollars. Just give me a full HDMI port, please. That's it. Next con, another one that just like, most of these cons you can tell aren't really like big issues with the camera. They're just little things that bug the fuck out of me. Another one of these things that bug the fuck out of me is that you can't write a video mode to one of the custom functions. Normally the way I have my camera set up is custom function 1 is photo, 2 is just vlog type whatever, just run and gun video, hand it off to somebody, they could figure it out. Custom function 3 is essentially my professional video one where I have to kind of do everything manually. This one, you can't write a video function to any of the camera functions. You just have to leave it essentially on video, right? So that just meant the workaround for that now was just making it so custom function 3 is now my photo one, and then video, which is literally the dial. Let me see if I can show it. See right there, video is the dial right next to custom function 3. So basically I just set it up so I could have custom function 3 as photo and then video set up right there, and I just pretty much don't touch those settings. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of annoying, but you can work around it, not the biggest deal. Next con is going to be the image stabilization wobble. So if you're going to be shooting at 35mm or below with one of the RF lenses, I'm just going to say either stand perfectly fucking still, leave it on a tripod, or make sure you're roll stepping like a goddamn ninja. If not, any heavy movement that happens while you're below 35mm with an RF stabilized lens, you're going to get some crazy looking warping in the background, looking like you're in part of one of those drug scenes from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. If you haven't seen that movie, definitely check it out. But yeah, the image stabilization below 35 is really gross, so if you're going to be using it below 35mm, turn stabilization off, or just make sure you're standing perfectly fucking still. Do not be walking, do not be shooting out of a moving car, bouncing around. It just won't look good, okay? Just don't do it. And then the last con is rolling shutter. So this is kind of one of those things that comes with full frame a lot. So it's not the biggest issue. And it's only apparent if you're doing any quick whip pans, or if you're shooting out of a moving vehicle, or if you shoot a large moving object passing by, will you see some rolling shutter. But other than that, not the biggest issue, just be mindful of how your camera works and its limitations, and you should be all right. And now that I just got all of that out of the way with, let's get into the things that I actually love about this damn camera. So, first things first, I know I already just went ham on the image stabilization and said it was disgusting, but at 35mm and above, this thing, now I know people always be like, oh, it's gimbal-like. Okay, I've used gimbals a ton of times before. As much as I hate them, I've used them. They're a great tool. Above 35mm on this camera handheld, if you're roll stepping and doing everything like I said previously, the shot's gonna be absolutely amazing, and it's gonna look gimbal-like, okay? I said gimbal-like. It's not gonna look like it was on a gimbal, it looks gimbal-like. Difference. Don't flame me, put your pitchforks down, please. Another pro on this camera is the autofocus. Now, I know before I said I was using a GH5, which we all know has terrible autofocus. So pretty much you would think that any camera I use that has slightly better autofocus than that, I'm going to say is great, which is true. But also I come from a background of a couple of face detection cameras. I've used the Sony a6300, the 7R3, the RX100 Mark V, all face detection cameras, so I'm not new to having good autofocus, and this one is actually pretty fucking bomb. So yeah. Great autofocus system in this camera. The image quality out of here for stills, and well, video also, but mainly stills is what I'm talking about right here. Image quality here is absolutely fucking beautiful. The way that the autofocus system and then that this sensor works together, photography essentially just became that. This is like a cheat code for it. Like, you really don't have to know what the fuck you're doing. If you have a solid piece of glass and you just like fucking no scope, click, clack, clack, like that, you're gonna get fire ass shots no matter what. I mean, not no matter what, but you get what I'm saying. The weight. Okay, so the camera feels light, which is great for me because I shoot handheld. A lot of times I'm shooting and I have to hold the camera low. So if I have a heavy ass rig built out, my back is gonna start to hurt. This camera is really, really light, but it's not light to the point where it feels flimsy. Like, the camera still feels solid. It feels like I could definitely like drop it and it will take a fall and be fine. I'm not gonna drop my personal one. If you wanna drop yours and test it out, send me a video, let me know, and I'll probably put it in the next one. But yeah, it feels like it could definitely take a good drop. Another pro, this one isn't huge for me, but I know most of YouTube and most of the internet has a really huge hard-on for the fact that this is full frame, so I'll mention it here. It's full frame. Bokeh. Another pro on this is going to be the low light performance. Now, it's not Sony level, but it's pretty fucking good. So it's not like A7S II light up a whole room with one candle type of vibe. But if you're shooting in low light, you're shooting outside, as long as there's some street lights or some minimal lighting in the background, the footage is going to come out of here very, very clean. Another pro, and this is actually one I love being a former GH5 user, is the app, or the Canon Camera Connect app that this uses is fucking amazing. So it lets you transfer raw photos, which the Panasonic app does not let you do. It also lets you pretty much monitor the feed. So if you want to, like, I guess, hook up your phone or your client's phone to the camera so they can see what's going on, you can change the settings. That app, honestly, out of all the apps I've used, so between Sony, Panasonic, and now Canon, this is probably the best app out of all of them, hands down. Love this fucking app. Then the last pro is we get a flippy tilty screen. Now look, bro, it's 2021. You gotta be able to take selfies. You gotta be able to vlog with the camera. Now I know some of you guys are gonna come out here and say, oh, a real professional doesn't need that. Well, look, I do this full time. This is how I pay my bills now. So by that logic, I'm a pro. So you can suck my dick. Alright, so now that I've gone over the things I love, the things that I don't like, the things that tickle my fancy, and some of the things that bug the living shit out of me, let's get into who I think this camera is for. Actually, let's get into who I think should avoid this camera like it's the fucking plague. So, first of all, if you need to do long takes in 4K, right? So either like interviews or POV porn, depending on how long you last, because, well, yeah, if you need to do any of those things that I just said, avoid this camera because, well, it's gonna overheat on you. Now, maybe look, if your interviews are like below 30 minutes, right, then you can do it. But if you know you're gonna have the camera on and it needs to be running for an extended period of time and you need to be shooting in 4K, then yeah, I would avoid this camera. It's not gonna be a good look for you, bro. Just don't do it. Just save yourself the trouble. And now, who do I think should purchase it? Now, if you're a photographer, I would 1000% recommend this camera. Like I said before, as long as you have a solid piece of glass on here with the autofocus, it's literally a fucking cheat code. Photography is a breeze. It's not a 45 megapixel camera, but I still honestly believe that 20 megapixels is more than enough for what most of us need, because like I said, half the time we're looking at shit on our phones, don't really need the resolution to be that high, and we're looking at Instagram and that butchers the hell out of quality anyway. So yeah, this is a great camera for photographers. And then, even though I said this is terrible for people who do interviews or long take POV porn, this is a great camera for videographers as long as most of your work consists of doing short takes, mostly like my work, which is just all short takes, fitness, motivational edits, yada yada yada, shit like that. This camera is great for videographers. I would 1000% recommend it if that is what you classify yourself as. This camera I also think is great for YouTubers or content creators because, I mean, one, the thing is lightweight. So if you want to sit around holding it out like this all day vlogging, it's not going to be that much of a pain on your shoulder. The autofocus is amazing. It's extremely fucking reliable. And then it has the flippy tilty screen so you can see yourself like I'm doing right now because I'm, well, YouTubing / content creating. And yeah, this is the perfect camera for people who want to do that. Now, yes, it is kind of pricey. I mean, it's what, $2,500 brand new? Kind of expensive to just say I'm using it for YouTubing or content creating, but if you could fit it in your budget and you need a camera to fit that need, this is definitely it. Now, even though my list of cons was pretty fucking lengthy, this is a great camera still, and I still recommend it to people. It has some hang-ups like all cameras do, but if you can work around these without impeding your workflow, I would 1000% say go and cop this camera. This one, right here. This one. Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you focus on it? You see it? This camera right here? That. EOS R6. Cop it. And that's a wrap. So, once again, guys, my name is Sway. I hope you enjoyed this review of the EOS R6. I'm actually shooting this review from the Canon EOS R5 right now. Now, I know I said in the video before this, I would never buy the R5. It has this and this hang-up. It's not reliable. It's not professional, yada, yada, yada. Well, I'll be indecisive out here, so I'm damn near bipolar, you could say. But now that I actually have both these cameras in my possession, I'm going to start doing a bunch of testing, well, just for myself, to see, you know, compare and contrast the different uses of these cameras, which one is better for X, which one is better for Y, which is better for Z. So, if you guys want to start seeing some content like that, comparing and contrasting the two, so that way you don't actually have to physically buy both to figure it out, let me know in the comments down below what you want to see. Let my financial mistake be your financial gain, okay? So, once again, I'm Sway. Hit like on this video if you found it useful at all. Hit subscribe if you want to see some of the content that I'm going to have with the R5 versus the R6. And then also comment down below what you want to see. Other than that, I'm going to catch y'all later. Peace.